Okay, today we'll talk about Osaka, 1970, the great world exhibition that took place in Japan, the first one in Japan in 1970 in Osaka. And let's see what we can learn from this spectacular event. This was the visual trademark of Expo 70. Some very important architects produced work for this architectural bonanza, if I'm to call it rather impolitely. The Japan World Exposition, Osaka 1970, or Expo 70, was a world's fair held in Suita, Osaka Prefecture. By the way, Tadao Ando lives in Osaka, Japan, between March 15th and September 13th, 1970. Its theme was, I quote, progress and harmony for mankind. Wow. Progress indeed in Ukraine, 2022, 2023, and harmony as well. In Japanese, Expo 70 is often referred to as Osaka Banpaku. It was the first World's Fair held in Japan and in Asia. The expo was designed by Japanese architect Kenzo Tange. Well, we talked about him yesterday because he died on the 22nd of March, assisted by 12 other Japanese architects and some formidable architects. Bridging the site along the north-south axis was the symbol zone. Planned on 3 levels, it was primarily a social space with a unifying space frame roof. The expo attracted international attention for the extent to which unusual artworks and designs by Japanese avant-garde artists were incorporated into the overall plan and individual national and corporate pavilions. The most famous of these artworks was artist Taro Okamoto's iconic Tower of the Sun, which you are going to see, which still remains on the site today, one of the few that were not demolished. Osaka was chosen as the site for the 1970 World Exposition by the Bureau International des Expositions in 1965. 330 hectares in the Senri Hills outside Osaka had been earmarked for the site, and the theme committee under the chairmanship of Seiji Kaya was formed. Kenzo Tange and Uzo Nishiyama were appointed to produce the master plan for the expo. The main theme would be progress and harmony for mankind. Tange invited 12 other architects to elucidate designs for elements within the master plan. These architects included Arata Isozaki, Pritzker Prize for the Festival Plaza, mechanical, electrical, and electronic installation, and Kiyonori Kikutake for the landmark tower. There was also Kisho Kurokawa, and there were others. We are talking here about very important Japanese architects. The Canadian pavilion. I just show now at the beginning a few national pavilions. This one actually received the first prize. This pavilion, I'm not very sure why. I didn't understand. I never understood very well this work by Arthur Erickson. But let's read a little bit about it. The Canadian pavilion, designed by architect Arthur Erickson, featured 2 National Film Board of Canada productions. The Land, a look at Canada from coast to coast, filmed for the most part from a low-flying aircraft, as well as the animated short story, perhaps The City, or short film directed by Kai Pindal. Montreal artist and architect Melvin Charney had submitted a radically different design for the Canadian pavilion, fashioned from construction cranes and scaffolding, which was rejected. Sometimes the good works are rejected. This is how life is. Anyway, this was built like this, and I read that it received the prize for the best pavilion, Canada's pavilion. yeah, 53 years ago, 1970, Osaka. Germany, the German pavilion, the West German, because at that time there were two Germanies, the West German pavilion designed by Fritz Bornemann featured the world's first spherical concert hall based on artistic concepts by Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. I never knew his first name, now I know. The pavilion theme, although I can't pronounce it very well, the pavilion theme was Gardens of Music, in keeping with which Bornemann planted the exhibition halls beneath a broad lawn with a connected auditorium sprouting above ground. Inside, the audience was surrounded by 50 loudspeaker groups in 7 rings at different latitudes around the interior walls of the sphere. Sound was sent around the space in 3 dimensions using either a spherical controller designed by Fritz Winkel of the Electronic Music Studio at the Technical University of Berlin, or a 10-channel rotation wheel constructed to Stockhausen's design. This was, but you know, nice talk, but the building is not very impressive. I mean, you know, it's a geodesic dome. It's Buckminster Fuller, but anyway, I guess there were some other interesting things happening around it and perhaps inside it, but otherwise the dome itself is rather simplistic. You know, these exhibitions, they are pretexts for promoting, you know, forward-looking companies, corporations. Very often this happens. The USSR pavilion was the tallest in the fairgrounds, a sweeping red, white, and white designed by Soviet architect Mikhail Posokhin. And here it is. Of course, the Soviets have to dominate the land and the sky. I'm beginning to be tired of the ideological expressionism. You know, they never have enough. They have the largest country in the world, and they still want to eat up other lands. And as we can see in this picture, even the sky. What an arrogance, really. Anyway, 1970, Soviet Union. Here is in front of it is the pavilion by the Netherlands, by you know, Holland, by the Netherlands. Bakema was one of the 2 architects who built it. We are going to see it a little better later. The US pavilion was an air-supported dome, a joint design by architects David Brody and structural engineer David Geiger. But I have no pictures. The Netherlands pavilion was the work of Karel Weber and Jacob Bakema, and this is it. It doesn't look too impressive now, 53 years later, but it's not too bad either, I guess. The most spectacular are the works of the Japanese, and we are going to see them in detail later. The Japanese were really remarkable in their forward-looking, you know, aesthetics. The Hong Kong pavilion, topped by sails that were raised and lowered twice daily, was designed by Alan Fitch, Chabot and partners. Didn't understand very well. I need to dwell more on this subject, but I have some pictures here. Too bad they are as they are. I don't understand very well what's going on here. But one thing is for sure, these world exhibitions are, you know, occasions for nations to, you know, prove themselves. So the tone is very optimistic. In fact, I'm even tempted, the devil in me suggests to me to, you know, to promote perhaps the idea of a pessimistic world exhibition, you know, a pessimistic national pavilion. What about that? No, it's impossible, of course. The Italian pavilion is nice, actually. It's dramatic with diagonals, making one think a little bit of a certain architecture, concrete and glass, but it is Italian design after all. Paul Rudolph perhaps would have liked it. He did some things not very dissimilar. The Philippine pavilion was designed by renowned Filipino architect Leandro Locsin and was very well received and was judged as one of the 10 most popular pavilions at the exhibition, with its dramatic roof sweeping up from the ground using fine Filipino hardwoods and other native materials. This is a rendering, but we are going to see the building. In my rush to prepare this material, I didn't always find the best pictures. The resolution is not quite good, but this one in black and white is acceptable. But you have to let your imagination complete the understanding of the building. But these world exhibitions are not occasions for worrying. They are occasions for hope. That's the raison d'etre. And that's why it disappoints me to read that Osaka is planning to build some casinos, apparently for the first time in Japan, if I understood correctly, not far away from the World's Fair in 2025. That would be the end of my respect for Japan. No, I'm joking, but do we really need more casinos? Fujitsu Pavilion, Expo 70, housing the world's first IMAX projector. What did I say before? It's an occasion for big companies to promote themselves, and Fujitsu knew it, but they built an interesting pavilion. Look at it, inflated as it is. No, apparently this Osaka World Exhibition in 1970 was something else, as someone wrote about it. And this is a view, but I think they had another. I think this pavilion was demolished later, or it was not demolished. This might be actually 1990. I am confused because I read an information that this was a picture actually from 1990, but the building was built in 1970. This building for Fujitsu. In color, it looks even better, but maybe later we'll have another look at this building. Arata Isozaki. The picture was identified as some kind of a robot, some kind of a building robot-like, or some kind of a robot building-like. I don't know. It's something that is both a robot and a building, I guess. Interesting. But this exhibition was very famous for this, that it created a second nature. A second nature, an artificial one, a technological one, a futuristic one. And there was a lot of optimism about this because at that time, Japan was, astonishing the world, if not itself as well, through its amazing achievements in technology, that they were able to build all these things. Isozaki died a few months ago. Kiyonori Kikutake, I admire very much Kiyonori Kikutake, metabolist, Japanese architect, and we are going to see in his tower is was done remarkably well. By the way of I don't know what, on the occasion of searching for materials about the Osaka Expo, I discovered that actually Pepsi Cola, and I regret I don't have a picture here, built a building that was very similar to what Elizabeth Diller and Riccardo Scofidio did years later, maybe 30 years later or so in Switzerland, the blurred building. Because Pepsi Cola commissioned some artists and some architects to build a building that would disappear into some kind of a fog. And that's exactly what Diller and Scofidio did about 30 years later. So I guess nothing new under the sky. Or certain people do find occasions to inspire themselves from others. This was also this was done by Kisho Kurokawa, and we are going to see a few more pictures with it. I forgot how it was called, but the tower belongs to Kiyonori Kikutake. These people truly believed in technology, but they believed in some kind of a biotechnology, because it was technology, very advanced, but there was also the proximity of metabolism and biological processes. So the technological techne was continuously fueled by life, actually. And this doesn't happen all the time, unfortunately, but it did happen then remarkably well. Kisho Kurokawa, who visited Romania and visited the University of Architecture and Urbanism here in Bucharest, he built 2 buildings, I think, for the Osaka Expo. This is one of them. And it is still provocative. Too bad that it was demolished. I just don't understand how you could demolish something like this, but it was demolished. If the saying "the sky is the limit" was ever true, maybe at that time it was. You know, because these people truly believe they can change the world. And it kind of shows. Now, I could almost say that they were wrong, but that belief is something I wish we continue to have. Kisho Kurokawa, another metabolist Japanese architect. Takara Beautillon from pavilion and beauty, I guess, a composite word. Kisho Kurokawa again. These Japanese, they can build anything. Sorry about those pictures. Section. Well, there is a serialism here and a structuralism, but there is also the bio, the 3 magical letters, B-I-O. So it's mechanicist, it's structuralist, it's serialist, but it's also biologist, or somehow it's metabolist. So life is still present somehow within the system. And it is a system, very much so. In 1970, Osaka World's Fair was something else. These are not my words. I found them on the web, and now you are going to see pictures to prove it. In 1970, Osaka World's Fair was something else. Here it is. This was the symbol of the World's Fair. This giant sculpture representing the sun. And we know in Japan, the sun is a woman, Amaterasu, and she is very, very important in the pantheon of Japanese mythology. Now here, I don't know what's going on, but they do look a little bit, entertaining and conducive to dreaming that the future can only be good. The tower by Kiyonori Kikutake. Now, maybe this was the, if I understood correctly, part of the pavilion by the United States. These things that seem to, you know, escape gravity. Essentially, these world fairs are you know, shows. That's what they are. They are meant to astonish. Too bad the astonishment doesn't last for too long, because most these things are destroyed when the exhibition. And I'm going to show at the end of this presentation images of what happened with the land on which this exhibition took place. In other words, what happened, what is now, and you are going to see what is now. And it's not worse than what we look at here, but it's very, very different. But I still think this World Exhibition of 1970 was, you know, an expression of an optimistic humanity. And I don't know if we still have such optimism these days. Probably not. There is technology, but there is also playfulness. It's a ludic technology. Now, I don't know what's here. I don't know if in those bottles there is champagne. I don't know what that lady is doing on that, you know, sofa. It's all about the future. You know, it's anyway. Osaka, 1970. I think, you know, reflecting on you know, trying to do some work for Osaka 2025 would benefit from reflecting on what happened in Osaka in 1970. It's good to know one's past, I think. I don't know how structured this is, or pavilion. This is, surprisingly, this is the pavilion of Japan, and is less spectacular than the buildings, or maybe it is spectacular through the simple fact that it's not spectacular. It's like, anyway, I'm talking in maybe cryptical terms, or maybe not so critical. Anyway, the Japan, as we saw, there were companies from Japan that had very exotic pavilions. But the pavilion of the country, which is here, is rather not subdued, but not very provocative. Anyway, Osaka. Let's not forget, this was 1970. At the end of the 60s, there was the great youth movement, no? Make love, not war. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Woodstock, the students fighting against war, fighting against the obsession with money. So there was idealism in the world. And maybe this World Expo somehow connected with that, you know, spirit that existed at that time. And I envy that spirit. I don't think we have something similar these days. Above, meaning in this picture, so the above refers to this picture, to this building, Japan Gas Association Pavilion. Laughter is a gift bestowed only upon human beings, and the main aim of this pavilion is the recovery of laughter. Now, what does laughter have to do with the gas association? Well, I guess it does, because, you know, if you have gas, you know, you have money, and if you have money, you are smiling, because what else could make you smile but money? No, money, oil, petroleum, gas. Yes. The building is not bad. I don't know who did it. I don't know in what way it was supposed to provoke laughter. I guess it's kind of like a face now that I look at it, you know, with two eyes and make a big mouth. But otherwise, the building is rather abstract. Further investigation is needed. Other pictures from Osaka 1970. And this is it was the symbol of the world exhibition in Osaka, and it's not destroyed. Now I end this imperfect presentation with images of what happened to the exhibition after it ended and what it is today on that land. And what it is today on that land is not bad. So let's read. The site of Expo 70 is now Expo Commemoration Park. So it is a park now. Almost all pavilions have been demolished, but a few memorials remain, including part of the roof or festival plaza designed by Tange. In other places, I read that actually it was designed by Arata Isozaki, but they worked as a team. So the most famous of the still intact pieces is the Tower of the Sun, which is this one. This is the Tower of the Sun. The former International Art Museum pavilion designed by Kiyoshi Kawasaki was used as the building for the National Museum of Art in Osaka, and then the museum moved to downtown Osaka in 2004. Additionally, there is a time capsule. This is very interesting. That is to be left for 5,000 years and opened in the year 6,970. Wow. A time capsule. The capsule was donated by the Mainiki newspapers company and the Matsushita Electric Industrial Company. The concept creating time capsules at World's Fairs started with the two Westinghouse time capsules, which are to be opened in 6,939. Very ambitious time frames. This was that roofing that says the Festival Plaza, and the roof apparently designed by Tange, or he worked together with Arata Isozaki. And it was, you know, the largest structure for this exhibition. Osaka, 1970. And now I end with a few pictures of the Expo Commemoration Park, which replaced the tumultuousness of the exhibit. The Expo Commemoration Park, or Expo 70 Commemorative Park, is a park in Suita, Japan. It is north of Osaka, about 15 kilometers from Umeda. I don't know what Umeda is. The park is the former site of Expo 70, a World's Fair held between March 15th and September 13th, 1970. It is about 264 hectares of lawn and forest and has education and recreation facilities. The National Museum of Ethnology, the Osaka Expo 70 Stadium, and part of the Expo land are in this park. The National Museum of Art used to be here, but was moved to the city. The park has the Tower of the Sun, which we saw, a symbolic landmark of the Expo 70, which has been preserved and repaired a number of times. Some of the materials used and built in the Expo 70 remain. The Garden of the Sun. This is in the present. Not bad. Not bad at all, but very different from the Expo, no? But we have to take our hats off our heads for the Japanese. I mean, they were able to, you know, create that event, very technological, very uplifting, with its hope in technology. And look, now they show an equal ardor, and and devotion to nature, and they manicure this park perfectly and beautifully. Really, it's a special country with a special people, the Japanese. I mean, it shows clearly that these people, when they do something, they do it seriously. Doesn't matter what it is, landscape design or techno pavilions. This garden, this is almost better than Versailles. I think even André Le Notre would have loved it. And they are not, you know, afraid to let the leaves of the trees fall on the ground, because in Asia, in the Orient, they have a deep understanding of nature, deeper than us here in Europe or the West in general. The Japanese garden, and Japanese it is. I mean, it is incredible. This is the land on which the expo took place in 1970. I think even God would have said, you know, I banished Adam and Eve from paradise, from the Garden of Eden, but I see the Garden of Eden here. And what else is here if not the Garden of Eden? It is beautiful, and you wonder. But it seems that we can do both. Now we can have an expo, a world expo, and we can also have this. Well, not simultaneously. Bravo to them. And this is the site plan of Osaka Expo 1970, and this is the last picture of this, you know, tentative presentation about it.